G'day and welcome to ReDriven. Now, the first ever top 5 video that we made was a top 5 first cars under $5,000. But the thing is, we made that video nearly 2 years ago. And in that time, my God, so much has changed when it comes to used car prices. So it needs an update. Plus, after reading through all of your comments in that video, we've decided to get a little bit more focused with this category. So welcome to part 1, representing small cars. Now, a first car not only has to be as safe as possible and practical and reliable, but it also has to be able to cop some abuse because, let's be honest, most new drivers are pretty crap at driving. It's not their fault, we're all terrible at things that we're new at. It also has to be fuel efficient and affordable to maintain, but it would be nice as well if it, was nice to drive and kind of looked cool as well. Basically, we are asking a lot from a car, especially considering that the budget is $5,000. Oh, also, we've tried to make sure that these cars are as internationally available as possible. And look, kicking things off, it's actually 2 cars that are kind of technically the same car. It's the Hyundai Rio and the Kia Accent. Or is it? No, sorry, Hyundai Accent and Kia Rio. That's the one. Okay, quick warning here. Make sure you avoid the bloody horrible first generation Rio because these things are shit. In fact, I'll go as far as saying that first generation Kia Rio might just be the worst car I've ever driven. And these days, the earlier Hyundai Accents, they should probably be avoided too. They're less shit than the Rio, but they're still pretty bloody average. But in terms of the Rio, look, step up to the second generation JB series from 2005 to 2011, and things improved substantially. And the Accent that we'd be going for is the third gen FD series from 2005 to around about 2010, which for this budget, look, they're not exactly plentiful on the used market, but they are out there. Actually, a quick tip when car hunting at this budget, as well as the usual car sales, Facebook Marketplace, Gumtree and all the classified sites, check out the motor auctions and wholesalers too. There are bargains to be had there. As we mentioned, these generations of Rio and Accent are pretty much the same car. They share the same platform, the same suspension and brakes, very similar looks, nearly the same features and safety, and the same engine. Although the Rio was available later in its life cycle with the option of a smaller 1.4 litre engine, something that the Australian market Accents missed out on. That 1.4 litre Rio might be an attractive proposal for those wanting maximum fuel efficiency, but look, we'd be going for the 1.6 as the fuel savings in the real world are barely perceptible, and the slight extra performance from the 1.6 just makes for a far more enjoyable drive. Now, these Rios and Accents, they were marketed towards a far more, let's say, conservative crowd, and it does show, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. A decent amount of interior space, a good sized boot, both for the hatch and the sedan, solid safety features, and look, while there's certainly no performance cars in any way, their fuel efficiency will keep your bank account happy. Now, look, they might not exude style or luxury with their pretty low-rent interiors and aggressively understated exterior aesthetics, and you'll have to fit an aftermarket head unit if you want any kind of phone connectivity like Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, but it's important to know that these cars were released at a time when Hyundai and Kia were hell-bent on shifting their brand's reputations from being, manufacturers of honestly pretty shit and dodgy cheap Korean runabouts to automakers of long-lasting, reliable and quality motor vehicles. Hence why, unlike many earlier Hyundais and Kias, these Accents and Rios are showing great reliability, and even if something does go wrong, they're pretty simple little cars, so repairs should be relatively easy to perform and therefore affordable. Plus, with many of the previous owners being, let's say, of a more mature age, there are well cared for, low kilometre examples with full and thorough service histories out there. Now, I should mention, before you buy really any used car, but especially used cars at this budget, make sure you watch our Ultimate Used Car Buyer's Guide video first. The link is just up here and it's down below as well. Honestly, please watch that first because it could save you thousands. Okay, next up, it's the Suzuki Swift. There are a few Suzukis worth mentioning for this category, like the 7th generation Alto from 2009 to about 2012, the 1st generation Ignis, the Liana or the Aereo, or even the earlier generations of the Swift. But the pick of the Suzuki family for this category and budget is the RS series from 2005 to 2010. At this price, you can forget about getting behind the wheel of one of the wonderful Swift sports of this generation, but even the lower spec 1.5 litre makes for a really enjoyable little car. Suzuki really moved the game forward with this generation of Swift compared to its predecessors, creating a more premium product instead of the low-price alternatives previously seen, and it shows. It's obviously no luxury car by any means, but the interior is hard-wearing while still looking cool and being practical. The sporty exterior will handle loads of knocks, and the mechanical package, even with some less than ideal servicing, is proving to be a reliable little unit. Even the levels of safety and equipment at this price point are pretty impressive. A quick tip too, At this price point, don't be too fussy when it comes to dents and scratches. As long as the car that you're looking at checks out mechanically, you can save serious money if it has a few cosmetic discrepancies. Obviously avoid any, actual accident damage, but if some clear coat is fading or the bumpers have seen a lifetime of trolley hits, you could pick up a bargain. Anyway, up next, it is the Honda Jazz, or depending on where you're watching this from, it might be the Honda Fit. Now, at this price point, you're going to have some choices to make. Currently, for this budget, you can have either an older and higher kilometre, but more spirited 1.5 litre first generation Jazz, or a newer, more efficiency conscious, but rough around the edges second generation 1.3 litre Jazz. The first generation cars are a little bit smaller, they're less refined, and they miss out on a few of the safety and tech features, but that 1.5 litre engine does make for a really fun drive. And being a Honda, as long as the service history is up to scratch, the higher kilometres they most likely will be showing shouldn't be too much of a deterrent. The second gen cars, they do move the game on substantially in terms of driving experience and refinement, just from the way they ride and handle, the fit and finish of the interior, and simply the fact that they feel more substantial on the road, not to mention the improvements in tech and features. The Series 2 is simply just a nicer car. The problem is, at this budget, a second generation Jazz will most likely be a bit on the rough side, and chances are it will have the 1.3 litre engine, which is, it's fine. It's a Honda, so it should be ultra reliable, but it's a pretty uninspiring engine. But either generation Jazz will offer the best overall practicality of any of the cars on this list, thanks to Honda's ingenious magic seats features. I actually used to own a second generation Jazz, and I can tell you from experience, you can easily fit in 2 full-size drum kits and 2 full-size drummers in a Jazz. They are amazing. Anyway, up next, it's the Toyota Yaris, or depending on where you're watching this from, it might be the Toyota Vitz. Look up the word bulletproof in the dictionary and there should be a photo of this thing. There's a reason that so many mechanic workshops all around the world use the humble Yaris as courtesy cars for their customers because, ignoring blatant abuse, the Yaris is pretty much unbreakable. At this budget, you're going to be looking at the second generation 2006 to 2011 XP90 model, and it's going to be most likely packing a 1.3 litre engine, although occasionally the more entertaining 1.5 litre models do pop up, but at this price point, they're going to have north of 250,000 kilometres on them. But in saying that, with how robust these little cars are, even those huge kilometres, it's not that big of a deal. The Yaris is a pretty basic little nugget of a car, and its immense longevity, at least inside, is thanks to an interior made of mainly hard plastics, not much of a focus on creature comforts, and the bare minimum when it comes to tech and features. Although fitting phone connectivity like Apple CarPlay or even parking sensors and a reversing camera is a breeze, but aside from the tech, the levels of safety aren't too bad for its age and for this price. Now, before we get to our number one pick, if you'd like us to keep making these videos for you, the only way that we can keep doing that is with your support. And the easiest way of supporting us is simply by hitting the like and subscribe button down there. Also, if you'd like to be notified for when part 2 comes out featuring larger cars, give that bell button a bit of a tickle as well. Okay, taking this list out, it is the awesome little Mazda 2. Okay, full disclaimer here, chances are any Mazda 2 asking less than $5,000 will have north of 200,000 kilometres on the clock, but we've found as long as it has a full and thorough service history and has been looked after, high kilometre 2s should offer superb reliability and longevity. But please be careful because at this price point, there are a few dodgy ones out there. Again, please watch our ultimate used car buyer's guide video first. But the positives are many. Thanks to the cracking good 1.5 litre engine and excellent chassis tune, the 2 offers a genuinely enjoyable driving experience. It has really good levels of practicality and safety, arguably the best looks of this bunch, and there are loads available on the used car market. Plus, with Mazda selling bucket loads of these things, parts availability is easy, and those parts, they should be affordable. And again, as they're pretty simple little cars, even the labour costs should be kept to a minimum if anything were to go wrong. Look, honestly guys, splitting these 5, especially the Jazz, the Yaris and the 2, will be down to your tastes and what's available at the time. But any of these, if they've ticked all the boxes, any of them should make for an awesome first car. Now, next week we are moving on to part 2 of our top 5 first cars under $5,000, but as I said, we are moving on to larger cars. We want to know what cars do you think should make up that list? And remember, can you please hit those all-important buttons down there? That'd be amazing. See you next week. Now, at this price point, that was a bit loud, wasn't it? And it does show, but that's not necessarily they might not exude style or luxury, and with you can fit 2 full-size fuel, idiot, will have north of 200,000 kilometres on the clock. But the thing is, there's a helicopter. Not sure if you can hear that, but I'm going to stop until the helicopter goes past. Now, next week we are moving on to part 2 of our top 5 first cars under $5,000. But as I said, we are moving on to larger cars. We want to know, what cars do you think should make up that list? And remember, can you please hit those all important buttons down there? That'd be amazing. See you next week.